Stores go live. Don't miss a moment. You can get a front row seat to the Power Trip Morning Show, program password, exclusive interviews, and more. KFAN.com/watch. It's all powered by Quantum Fiber Internet. KFAN.com/watch.
Back with you, 4:05 on a Wednesday afternoon. Dave Sinekin in for Dan Barreiro today. Dan and Justin will be live at the fair tomorrow and Friday, and then Dan will be on, I'm guessing, Sunday sermons on Sunday, and it all begins
live
tomorrow.
At the fair.
Live at the fair. Bottom of the hour, Ben Goessling will join for the latest on Vikings training camp, what he saw today, how the roster sits, some of the battles still to be determined with one preseason game left. That happens Friday night at 8. Pre-game on the Fan at 6. The Boom shortly after 8 p.m. from Denver. I asked when our show began, kind of a running theme today, your favorite under-the-radar State Fair food, and they were pouring in. And I just want to quickly run through a bunch that have been submitted to us, and you can continue to do so. Bradshaw and Brian, KFAN text line 64686. These are the State Fair foods that you don't think of off the top of your head necessarily. Eric from Montrose submits both nitro ice cream or the honey cream sodas. Veggie fries, Holy Land gyros are a must. Australian potatoes, that is one that I walked past on the way out. That's right kind of on the way to Como Avenue. I've never tried it. I know the line always seems to be somewhat long. The frozen apple juice or apple cider in the Ag Building. The Jamaica beef patty is the bomb in the back corner of the International Bazaar. Sweet corn ice cream with bacon caramel. I mentioned earlier, I'm not usually a sweets guy at the fair. That is something I would try, especially on a hot day. That sounds great. Deep fried gator, had that on a stick.
How's that?
You know, it's like having like a sausage. Like it's not, it's good. It's not gamey. It's not, I mean, in my head, I'm thinking, oh, hey. You would never try that, correct?
No.
That in a million years, right? What would someone
That's
have to
yucky.
What? No, if you didn't know it was gator, you'd have no idea what you're eating. It's all in your head. You're seeing a crocodile, slithering by the 8th hole in Florida. It's very good. Let's see. What do we got here? The grape tasting booth is good. I've never. What is that? Grape tasting? Like, what does that mean? We have a sample of green, red, purple. Try one out. See which color suits your fancy. I've never heard of that.
It could be a callback to Monday where Charge had an entire segment about people trying grapes at the grocery store.
Oh.
So I don't.
Oh, that could be that.
Might not be.
Looks like you texted in. Somebody wrote, Iowa State Fair is better.
That was not me.
That was not you?
And also, I don't really care for either one of them.
The Gizmo sandwich is my lesser-known favorite. 612 guy says, near the lot, close to Larpenteur. I'm an aficionado of the Gizmo. I do like the Gizmo. It's up on Machinery Hill. It's like what would you call it? It's almost like a sloppy Joe, but it's Italian sausage in Italian. Like it's crumbled up Italian sausage, ground up with like a marinara sauce and melted cheese on a hoagie roll. It's delicious. So I definitely subscribe to that one. Kevin from Woodbury, I 100% have to get a hot waffle. Nothing better than vanilla ice cream between two hot-pressed waffles. Elephant ears, frozen grapes at the grilled alligator stand, or honey ice cream again at the bee display on the north side of the horticulture building. Deep fried pickles, that's kind of about as trendy as it gets now. I think everybody's tried that. The London Royal Sandwich, Scotch eggs near the Coliseum. Somebody says, I think it was Lavelle who almost choked on the turkey sandwich.
That is true.
Is that a true story?
Yes.
I'll have to ask him about that because that is my favorite. The turkey to go is my favorite.
He was on with Bump.
When it happened?
Yes. So he was on with Bump. Well, he didn't really choke to death.
No, I understand that.
He just couldn't talk at all. And they were trying to do a segment, and they couldn't go for more than 5 seconds without Lavelle just going to town right in the microphone.
Which makes me think of the one time I almost died choking at Lambeau Field. Ever told you that story?
No. Is there a
No, I really did.
Here?
I really did. So it must have been a Bears game because we were with our friends who live in Atlanta, but they're Bears fans. And this is probably, 20 years ago. I don't know. But we were eating.
Favre?
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, I'm guessing it was the Favre era. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was the Favre era. I don't remember. We were eating somewhere in a large room. There's a ton of people, and it was like a roast beef type sandwich. And at the time, I was dealing with some dental issues, so I had some teeth that were kind of going through a rough time, and it was kind of hard for me to chew like I normally do, and that was the problem because I just swallowed too big of a bite without having chewed it correctly, and I was in trouble for a minute, and I did the absolute wrong thing. Like, I didn't just sit there and say, yo, somebody Heimlich me, I need some help here. I just got up from the table and sort of walked away thinking I just got to...
Trying to tough it out.
Yeah, I took my beer with me, and I take a sip of beer. Wrong answer. Beer comes immediately out. Like, it was going nowhere. Like, the beer wasn't going to go down. There was blockage. Wow. I was a little scared for a minute. I kept, like, hitting my chest. Like, I got it down, obviously. I'm still with us.
Yes.
But
that's just so good.
That's the one time I remember getting really close.
You may as well have just said, I tried to take a bite of a brat, too. Well, that didn't work.
Yeah, no.
Tried to eat cheese curds.
That probably would have been a much worse scenario if I kept putting more things into my mouth at that point. We have lots more State Fair selections to get to as we weave our way through this program. I just want to touch on quickly the big news story from yesterday. Let me go. I'm going to find this text. Give me 1 second. We have Commons elevator music handy. I know what time it came in. Oh, here it is. Well, this is nice. Dave, I love listening to you. Thank you. I've always wondered what you do with the rest of your time professionally. I doubt I'm the only listener who wonders this. It's funny. Over the years, I've met a number of people who are just stunned that I do something beyond this. Like, they actually believed that my 2-hour Saturday radio show could sustain me and my lifestyle.
It doesn't?
I need another gig. Yeah. I'm not complaining that I haven't gotten a raise since 1994, but it is what it is. It's just a fun hobby. I have my own ad agency. That's my day job. I don't really ever talk about it on the fan. You're interested, TitletownMarketing.com. But I just help out local businesses figure out how to reach more customers. I've been doing it for, 17 years. I think I started in 2009. So that's what I do, which made me, when I saw what went down between Callaway and Good yesterday, it hit me a little harder because this is my vocation, is marketing and advertising. And the idea to me that two brands, successful brands, like
massive
brands. And what Good, I was not real familiar with Good's game maybe a year or two ago, but I have two sons in their early 20s
who golf.
And my son Dylan, who didn't know what golf was 2 years ago, is so addicted now that I came home one day this summer. He's watching something on YouTube TV on our set. Like, what is this? He says it's the Good mock draft. Like, what? Yeah, they're drafting for this competition they're going to have. They're drafting their friends and their these amateur players. They're going to join their team. I'm like,
probably the Internet Invitational.
I believe it was.
Yeah. Great watch.
So I'm thinking you're watching a mock draft of a fake golf tournament, fake in quotes, but not a PGA. So it really kind of made me understand how big this Good brand is. And they wear the hats and the whole thing. So I was much more familiar now watching some of the videos where they play with Bryson and whoever else. And yeah, it's fun, whatever.
More of a foreplay man myself.
Are you?
That's another one. Anyways, continue.
Okay. So yesterday, I'm on social media with probably TikTok's the first place I saw it, where you see the ad that they came up with, that Good comes up with. It appeared online initially. It was to, I'm sure you all have seen this, announce the new collaboration between Good and Callaway and their new driver. And they had this, I think it was a 15-second spot where there's the gleaming driver standing up in the golf bag, and this young lady's about to, take it out of the bag, and here comes barreling at her is one of the Good guys who barrels into her, knocks her to the ground, stands over her and says, "What? No one touches my driver." Something to that effect.
He's like scolding her.
And the music, which is so intimidating and dark, I think even paints a more massively terrible picture. Not that colliding with a woman and throwing her to the ground is not bad enough. No one touches my driver. And that's supposed to be what's being marketed now to America, right? So the backlash was instantaneous. What gets me as a advertising guy is how many people saw this and said, "This is brilliant. This is exactly who we want to market to." forget all the, yahoos and apparently misogynistic folks at Good Good who thought this was a great idea. How does Callaway approve this, rubber stamp it? Yeah, we want to be a part of this. Oh, yeah, by the way, the greatest growth right now in the game of golf is women golfers, so let's just alienate them and glorify domestic violence. I think that's a great idea. It boggles my mind that something like that can hit the airwaves in this day and age, and a lot of reportedly smart people saw no problem with rubber stamping it. I'm really curious what the fallout is. I know that the PGA was very quick to say that their collaboration with Good Good is sort of murky. They were going to have some big event coming up soon.
Yeah.
Some Golf Galaxy pulled out immediately after this. Callaway's CEO's response didn't mention the word women in his response, which caught most people's attention. I thought that Good Good's initial response was embarrassing and nowhere near to the level of saying mea culpa as it should. It boggles my mind that people can get this far in this industry and have no clue what the pulse of this country is. I'm sure it appealed to some people, but those are the kind of guys I want in my foursome, to be honest with you. I don't know. What was your thought when you saw it?
You talk about the layers of approval. I mean, think about anyone who pitched it had to approve it, and then anyone on set that day filming it had to approve it. I mean, the editors had to approve it, and no one at any point thought, this is a bad look to just absolutely demolish a woman over a golf club and call it, I guess it was supposed to be comedy, and I just don't, I don't see the punchline unless if it's just physically assaulting women is the punchline,
yeah,
I guess.
That's great.
So yeah, well done on there. But then it also just feels like Good maybe it was everyone has been telling them, oh, you're so successful, everything you do is absolutely brilliant, and maybe just no one had the cojones to tell them, this is a bad bit.
Right.
This is not funny. Nor is it in good taste. So the amount of people, not only it just goes through Good and goes through Callaway, but the amount of people that worked on it and edited it and was posting it and making descriptions for it and making art for it, and nobody said, hey, do we think this is a good idea to just physically bulldoze a woman and call it comedy?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't get it.
It's crazy. And for me, maybe I understand Good. Maybe that's who they're trying to be. Hey, we're going to appeal to this certain kind of person. But Callaway, the hit they could potentially take, I've seen countless videos of people removing the golf. I got Callaway woods in my bag. I'm not going to dump them. But will I think twice about if I need a 7-wood buying a Callaway? I probably would think twice about it right now. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. So I'm curious what the fallout's going to be. It's all deserved as far as I'm concerned.
Our club with me in common is always available.
Is it really?
It's just, if you're comfortable hitting it farther and straighter, that is an option.
All of my irons are pings, so relax. I was at Second Swing trying out ping woods when I bought my clubs, and
didn't do it.
Callaways, my best clubs in my bag are my driver and my 3 and 5 wood. Those are the ones I hit best. So I guess I do hit them well. All right, let's pause here. Bottom of the hour, Ben Goessling, latest on the Vikes. When we come back, let's talk some more football as well. Some thoughts on the Purple, maybe some thoughts on the Pack. They had a practice with the Cardinals today. It was the LaFleur Bowl. Matt LaFleur and Mike LaFleur's team practicing on the field. Some news came out of that we'll talk about. Continue to share under the radar State Fair foods with you as we get set for Ben Goessling, as I say, in about 10 minutes. We're back on the Fan right after these.
In for Barreiro, it's Dave Sinek.
Chance to score a Mall of America Summer Mystery Prize is back. You can grab one at any of our KFAN events or anytime you see the street team out and about this summer. You can redeem it at Mall of America for discounts and exciting prizes. Check out upcoming events at KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
All right, we are back about 10 minutes away from Ben Goessling. Join us, the latest on Vikings camp today, what went down as they get set for their final preseason game in Denver Friday night. Last bit on the good Callaway controversy, because a couple texts came in during the break that I just can't ignore. 612 guy. Genuine question on the good controversy. Would the commercial be taken differently if it was two men or two women instead of a man and woman, or switched around? Yes, of course. Are you serious? And then another one. What if the ad was a woman knocking another woman down? Yes. But will they have made the commercial? If there was some guy knocking down another dude who's going to grab his dress. No, they wouldn't have made the commercial, because to them, that's not funny. What's funny is, look, we'll have the guy knock his girlfriend down and hover over her menacingly. They wouldn't have made the ad. And there wouldn't have been no uproar if a guy knocked another guy down. Okay. That's not funny. I don't think it's entertaining in any case. But that wasn't why they made the ad, clearly. So, yeah, no, it would have made a huge difference if it wasn't a guy doing it to a woman, obviously.
It wouldn't have been a controversy, it just would have been a bad ad.
Exactly. It was a bad ad either way, but you're correct. Yeah. It wouldn't have been made, because nobody would have come up with, hey, what if we had a guy knock down a guy trying to reach his driver? Well, why would we do that? What's funny about that?
Yeah.
This apparently was funny. Apparently.
I don't think it's funny at all.
No.
Regardless of how you put him out there.
Correct. Vikings practice today. J.J. McCarthy was rested with the ankle. He did not practice. We'll get a lot of information about what Ben Goessling saw in our next segment. I mentioned Green Bay had the Cardinals in today for a joint practice. The LaFleur brothers. Just two notes. Javon Bullard back. The nickel corner was back after missing a couple weeks. The rookie kicker, who I'm very enamored with, went 2 for 5 and missed a PAT. Apparently he cannot kick in practice, but he's really great in games. What Green Bay fans are watching is Josh Sweat, who is back in uniform for the first time and apparently on the trade market. And Green Bay fans are hoping he doesn't leave Green Bay, because he played with Jonathan Gannon, the defensive coordinator. People are connecting the dots. Green Bay needs an edge rusher with no Micah well, that's the other news today. Micah was on a podcast and said to him right now, things are going great. He's cutting, he's moving, but he thinks optimistically he'll be back for Game 6 against Dallas. We all just assume it's Dallas. Of course, he's going to do everything he can, but I don't think it's a slam dunk. I think they want to be really sure that he is Micah when he comes back and that he's available at the end of the year when things matter. So that was the other bit of news today that caught my eye. What I know, you are, despite your youth, you're not a fan of throwbacks, rivalry uniforms, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. What were your thoughts of the rivalry uniforms for the 4 NFC North teams and mostly the 2 teams that we care most about?
Yeah, I'm always someone, if I go to Lambeau once a year, I want to see the green and golds. I don't want any variation of that. I got screwed last year when I scheduled it out ahead of time to go to week 2, and that's when they scheduled the whiteout game. And I'm like, all right, well, I got to watch these ugly jerseys, in my opinion. They're not as bad as I thought they would be, the Green Bay ones. I like the Vikings one.
I do too.
Way better.
Me too.
Miles better.
I think of the 8 teams I've seen, I think I like the Vikings ones best.
100%.
I like the little skull written out in front of the helmet in whatever language that is. The Nordic, whatever,
like runes. Yeah, or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not that adept to know that stuff. But the darker purple, the font, kind of the old Norse font, I thought they knocked it out of the park.
Green Bay's is fine. It's not bad.
I think my biggest issue with the Packer ones, I hate the font for the names and the numbers. I don't like the look, whereas I really think the Vikings is cool. I think the font for the Packers is terrible. I do like the alabaster off-white helmets. Mm-hmm. I like the interlocking GB on the front chest, the old Lombardi era logo that making an appearance. And I like the stripes on the arm. I like everything about it, but I don't like the font. And that kind of lose me if I don't like the name and the number that I'm looking at. It's also, we all know, a cash grab for Nike, who will cash in when people buy these uniforms. Green Bay will wear theirs for the Bears game, week 5. The Vikes will wear theirs December 20th for the Lions game.
Which, funny enough, that was in the talks to be the annual journey, and I'm pivoting.
Well, if it's the Viking game, you still don't want to see the Vikings in a different uniform?
No. I was talking about
the Packers-Bears game. Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm going to try to pivot and go to a different game.
I read today, I didn't realize this, the Minnesota Vikings are going to wear their throwback uniforms week 1 against the Packers. Did you know that?
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I looked everywhere to see. Those are fine. Do you know what those are exactly? Because I couldn't, in my mind's eye, bring
think
back what those look
they're
like.
the ones that they've worn a handful of times the past couple years, where it's more block letters. It's the horn on the helmet is less detailed, and it's just kind of looks like a sock.
So more 70s, like
yeah, and they have the different logo at midfield. It's like a white Viking with an outline.
I do remember that.
Yeah, so I think that's what they're going to roll with.
So they're going to roll with that week 1 against the Pack.
All right, sure.
Interesting. That surprises me a little. I don't like I know it's rivalries for the new uniforms. It's all about the rivalries. Yeah. That's why they're doing it for Bears Week and why the Vikings are doing it for Lions Week. But for week 1, Green Bay Vikings, I feel like the team should look like themselves.
We've been waiting 7 months for this. Like, they should look like their standard look.
If this is all we're complaining about, I guess, first world problems. But
also, I know it's a cash grab and they just want people to get the uniforms, but I wouldn't want to buy a uniform that they only wear one time. Seems like a waste to me. Don't you want to wear what the players are wearing? Isn't that the whole point of buying a uniform? Is to be like a part of them? So why would you get a uniform that they're literally never going to wear before or after that day, and now it's just hanging in your closet forever?
Well, that said,
maybe that's just about me.
I know, it's funny you say that, because what brings me to my mind is years ago, a listener gave me a jersey, and I forget his name now. He lives in Arizona. He used to come to my Park Tavern appearances, and one day he says, "Dave, I got you this," and it was a Clay Matthews.
Corey from Milwaukee?
No.
Oh, okay.
Different guy from Arizona. He gave me this. It's great. I mean, it's the navy blue. Do you remember this one with the gold circle? And 52 and stitched, all stitched, Clay Matthews. I mean, it was
one of the many tries Green Bay has had at like the old Leatherhead
blue
look.
And gold look.
Yep.
It's a really cool jersey. I don't know that I've ever worn it. Maybe since when he gave it to me. Maybe I knew he'd be there, so I have to wear it, kind of thing. It was very generous, and I didn't throw it out. It's in my drawer, but I would never think to throw that sucker on. Maybe since I said that, week 1, Buffalo Wild Wings, Oakdale, border battle, maybe I dust off the Clay Matthews jersey for that one. Just feels right now that I've talked about it.
I'm going to stick to the green number 10.
Gotcha.
I think that's what we're rolling with.
We'll pause here. Let's catch up with Ben Goessling on what went down at Vikings practice today, what we should look ahead to Friday night. The latest from Ben is up next on The Fan.
You're listening to Dave Sinekin in for Barreiro on The Fan.
Download the free iHeartRadio app. Search for the solid.
Including Snoop Dogg September 5th, Ron White October 17th. You get complete details on all of our upcoming shows on the concert page, KFAN.com. It's keyword calendar.
We are back, 4:37 on a Wednesday afternoon. Dave Sinekin in for Dan Barreiro. Brett Blakemore by my side. Ben Goessling joining in just moments. We will have Lavelle E. Neal III at 5:30. Also Top 5 at 5. And Oh Do It Dead Guy still coming up today. Have to keep the bit going with Dan not in the chair. We will do that before we are done as well. Already spoke with Britt Robson for Basketball Conversation. If you missed that, talking Lynx and Timberwolves ownership stuff. That'll be available via podcast form at the iHeartRadio app. I'm guessing shortly after our show ends. But let's talk some purple, and let's welcome Ben Goessling, who, as you know, covers the Vikings for the Star Tribune and StarTribune.com. Ben, good afternoon. Thanks for spending some time with us, my man.
You got it, Cindy. How are we doing?
We're doing very well. I'm assuming we're at practice today, and we learned via your reporting and others that J.J. McCarthy was given the day off. Was it ankle-related mostly, or what do we know about that situation?
Yeah, it's the ankle and just the stemming from that series of hits he took in that game against the Ravens on Saturday. I think they have wanted to keep him a little less of a workload this week because they want to get that thing cleared up in hopes that he'll play Friday night. Kevin O'Connell said that they want him to start the game. They still want him to get out and get some preseason work in. I think they're trying to grab every game rep they can for him at this point because he still just needs that much development. So he split the reps with Carson Wentz yesterday, and then today I think they just said, let's not worry about it, especially because they were trying to go a little more Today was more of a scrimmage where everything down to 12-minute halftime like you'd have in a game. I mean, they did all of those things very much the same way. So a lot of what they were trying to do today is run it like a game, and there's maybe not quite the same level of break in there where you could take somebody out. You wouldn't want to do it that way. So, yes, didn't practice today. They'll see how he comes through the rest of the week. The hope would be that he plays Friday, but I would imagine they're not going to push it if they don't feel like it's going to be a good decision for his ankle in the long term after all those hits he took against the Ravens.
Right. At yesterday's practice, he and Carson Wentz split the number 2 reps. Will they, at some point, is it after the rosters or the 53-man cutdown happens, or at some point will they announce the depth chart where there is clarity about who's the actual backup to Kyler Murray? How is that typically orchestrated? When do we kind of see that final depth chart, or will we?
Yeah, we will. I mean, once the 53 is done, they'll have a depth chart heading into that first game against the Packers. I mean, they'll release that as part of their weekly, informational release that they do typically at some Wednesday before a game. But, all of that stuff is subject to change. I mean, I think the big tell will be, assuming that there's 3 quarterbacks on the roster, whichever one of them is declared inactive or declared as the emergency third quarterback on September 13th. So they could list the depth chart however they want to, but until a quarterback is active and one is inactive, I don't think you're going to have a clear definition of that. So really, 90 minutes before kickoff, so probably 1:55 p.m. on September 13th will be the most definitive picture we get of this, I guess, is how I would look at it at this point, at least.
So at this point, with one game left, and basically that's it, I doubt they're doing any more practice, right, tomorrow? It's probably just a walkthrough day, or they're traveling tomorrow, correct?
Yes.
So,
yep, that's correct.
How many roster spots would you say off the top of your head are still in play, and what will you be watching from that standpoint most closely on Friday night? Who's really fighting for a job, and maybe what positions could the organization be wrestling with, how deep to go, knowing it's going to cost you, a guy at another spot? Where are we with the real close calls on the roster right now?
Yeah, I mean, there are still a few. I would say probably the front 7 is where I look a little bit. I mean, as a guy like Tyler Batty, who made it last year, played some in the regular season last year, I would think he's probably got a good chance to make it. You got a guy like Chaz Chambliss, who has been cross-training at fullback in case they would ever lose Max Bredesen. So I would think he'll have a good chance as well, but there's a number of different ways you can go with that group because they move so many people around. So a guy like Isaiah Loudermilk, does he factor into things? I mean, some of those types of players, those types of things are what I'm interested in. And then in the defensive backfield, probably some of that as well. Jacoby Thomas, their third-round pick, will play on Friday night. He practiced today. It seems like things are trending toward him actually getting on the field. Jacob Thomas, the undrafted free agent, has continued to be impressive. I think he's got a great chance to make the team as well. So then you're talking about guys like Tavier Thomas. Does he get a roster spot again because of some of the special team stuff? I mean, those types of spots on defense are where my mind goes first. And then, probably wide receiver, I guess, would be the other one. You've got the top 3. They're settled. And Ty Felton and Miles Price, I think, have made great cases for themselves to be involved on the offense. So is it just those 5, or do they keep a 6th? Is it somebody like Dylan Bell or Dante Fleming? Obviously Jason Jones is not in this mix now because of the suspension that the NFL handed down yesterday after his DUI arrest in April. So some of those things are probably where my mind is. And then, just what we see from the quarterbacks is going to determine a lot of this because, who they keep and where. It's probably going to be 3 barring a roster move or barring a trade or something like that. But I think looking at how they come out of it and looking if J.J. McCarthy plays, whether there's a sign of progress, I think is still very much worth watching on Friday night.
You mentioned McCarthy and Wentz may get some run Friday night. Otherwise, it's the Max Brosmer show. Is there a scenario where Brosmer's performance might determine whether they keep him around for another year, or do you feel like he's locked in as a practice squad guy at this point?
I would imagine he's going to end up on the practice squad. The only scenario I could see is if and I don't think this is going to happen, but if they got some offer from McCarthy that they made a trade, I mean, it's hard to rule anything completely out. But if something like that happened, maybe you keep Brosmer on the roster and say, well, we don't need to worry about exposing him to waivers in case somebody else would want to take him, and we try to get him on the practice squad that way. I mean, that's the only way I could see it. I think Wentz will be on the team. I think obviously McCarthy's on the team if he is in fact here, which I expect he will be. So in that case, I would think Brosmer is probably on the practice squad. They just haven't used him as much in this preseason. They haven't used him certainly as much in training camp just because of all the quarterbacks that they've had. And I think that's probably still very much developmental. I would think he wants to stay here. I think they want to continue to develop him. But if you go practice squad with him, you do have that risk of somebody say, yeah, we'd like to take him for our organization to develop him as part of our roster. So, I would imagine it's practice squad, but, we've seen some strange things happen on cutout weekend before, so it's hard to rule anything out until we have that final 53, or initial 53, I should say.
Exactly.
It's never finalized.
It's always the initial one on Sunday. You mentioned safety Jacob Thomas. I saw a tweet earlier today where PFF listed their highest graded rookies through 2 preseason games, top 15. And Jacob Thomas was number 1 with a 92.2 grade.
Yeah.
Linebacker Bengali Kamara actually was number 9, who might be a guy on the bubble or maybe a practice squad candidate. How surprising is it that Thomas is graded out so highly, and with the question marks at safety, and we know that B-Flow likes to play with 3 safeties a lot. We don't know Harrison Smith's future still at this point. It sounds like this Thomas kid has maybe carved out a nice role for this team.
Yeah, he has. And you continue to hear people, whether it's Brian Flores or Kevin O'Connell or, guys like Josh Metellus, talk about the way he goes about his business and being beyond his years. I mean, people talk about him, kind of being a conceptual thinker, which is important in this defense because this defense is not, well, on this play, this is my drop and this is my landmark and this is the only thing that could happen. And I just need to worry about my job and the rest of it fits together. A lot of it is, well, if it's this look, this is what we're going to run. Otherwise, we're going to check to something else. So understanding the overall mission of what you're trying to do when your job can change in so many different ways based on how you're blocked or how the protection scheme declares itself. I mean, so many things where you look like you're coming on a blitz and then all of a sudden you're dropping into coverage. As we saw Jacob Thomas do last weekend, you have to understand this defense at a 30,000-foot level. It can't just be, this is my assignment, this is my technique, I don't have to worry about anything else. You have to see how the overall picture comes together and what you're trying to get done as part of that. So when he's getting some of those things this early on, I think that's made a big impression. It's been on the practice field, but also I think in meetings, in the film room, all of those things. He's made a name for himself as a guy that understands this stuff and learns it at a very high level for somebody who's still pretty young. So yes, I think he's going to have a great chance to make the team. I think the way they've used him through the preseason would suggest he's going to play a role, and we'll see how big that role is. Some of this is yet to be determined. Theo Jackson's health is a factor, and if there is a return for number 22, that certainly is going to change a lot of things. But yeah, I think overall Jacob Thomas has been one of the stories of this camp and has certainly the arrow pointing up for him, no doubt about it.
Let's stick with the defense for a minute. Talking with Ben Goessling, as you know, covers the Vikings at Star Tribune, StarTribune.com. Viking fans who are going to watch the game or listen Friday night, I'm sure are going to still pay a lot of attention to those 2 early drafted defensive tackles, Caleb Banks and Dominique Orange. What do you sense their grade has been from the defensive coaches by what we've seen so far, and how ready are either of them to make an immediate impact at a spot where we know the Vikings jettison some veterans this year to allow the youth to come in? Yeah. Do you feel like the coaching staff is confident that they're ready when called on?
Well, I think there's still work to do for both of them. Certainly Caleb Banks we've seen, and he's been very candid about this, just the ways that he needs to continue to develop his game for the NFL level, getting his pad level down so that linemen aren't able to get underneath him and push him back. I think figuring out when to take shots and when to take chances, that's something I had a good conversation with him about it after the game against the Giants, where he tried to break into the backfield and take Cam Scadaboo down and ended up leaving his gap and leaving an opening. I asked Brian Flores about that yesterday. He said a lot of it is if you have the experience where you put a lot of things on tape that you typically play your technique and you're going to get blocked that way, it makes it easier for you to play against type and take those chances. So it was not something he discouraged him from doing necessarily, but said, hey, maybe it's a little better to do that once you've got a little more time in the bank, both to understand the situation and to have developed enough of a reputation for yourself that when you play against it, it can be effective. So there's a lot of that stuff with him yet that I think is still a work in progress. I would imagine the role is going to be a little slow to come along just because I think they want him to keep learning. Dominique Orange probably is a little more of a factor in rundowns. I think at this point, anyway, we did see him drop into coverage. Right. On one play last Saturday when they had, I think, a look that the blocking turned his direction, so he was able to drop and basically make so the center didn't have anybody to block. That's something they do quite a bit. But, yeah, I think he'll be somebody that in run situations you could see, in obvious run situations. But I think the overall path for both of those guys to being every down players probably will be a little more deliberate because there's still some things that I think they want to see both of those guys show before they're playing larger roles.
Okay, so I've got two scenarios for you, two of the biggest storylines on this Vikings season. I'm going to ask you if only one of them can hit A+, which is more important for this team success-wise. Number one is the ascension of Dallas Turner to be a real threat and dominating type pass rusher, given the opportunity now opposite Andrew Van Ginkel, or B, instant chemistry between Kyler Murray and Justin Jefferson. Jefferson's stats rebound and look more like the Jefferson stats we've seen throughout his career. Only one of those two things happen. Which one is more important in your mind for this team to have the success it wants to have?
Boy, that's a great question.
Thanks.
My gut says Jefferson and Murray. I've continued to think that's among the most important things that can happen this season because the offense is predicated on getting Justin Jefferson the ball and turning him loose. And he's had to be fairly patient with the quarterback transition from last year. I think he's been honest about that. He certainly has been honest about understanding the overall perspective of it. But they certainly want to get him going again. And Kyler Murray being the starter is very much with Justin Jefferson in mind, a guy that can find him downfield. He had a long touchdown to Jefferson today that, he threw it to a spot that Jefferson was not there yet. So the anticipation on that type of a throw, if that stuff comes back to their offense functions very, very differently than what we saw last year. We saw it in 24 and 22 when Jefferson was at his peak and the success they had in the process of that. So I think that is job one, but the Dallas Turner angle of this is a big part of it because they lose Jonathan Grenard, who was their most consistent pass rusher, the guy that was getting a lot of the blocking attention, a lot of the double teams. They need somebody to replace that type of role. They get pressure from a lot of places, and they will, but having that pass rusher that can consistently get home and can consistently show he's going to be a disruptive player, it can draw blockers his way, open things up for other people, is really important. And I think we've seen some signs in the preseason that he's moving more in that direction than he has looked in his past in Minnesota, but that's a long way from saying he can do it for 17 weeks in the regular season, especially once blocking schemes do start to say, let's take him out of it first. So I would go Jefferson and Murray, but I think the Turner part of this is very important. So that's why that's a little tougher of a decision on which one is the priority than I thought it would be, just because I think Dallas Turner is a really big part of this thing too.
We've talked about the rookies on defense. Didn't mention Golday, but clearly he's impressing and looks like he's carving out a role early. There's competition, obviously, there. But I want to talk about Max Bredesen, the fullback. I thought Alec Lewis's tweet I saw earlier was interesting, where he compared his potential impact to Alec Ingold's in Miami, since Frank Smith has come up from Miami in that offense, and what he might do to change what this defense looks like and his unusual skill set. I have a soft spot for Alec Ingold. He's a Green Bay kid, so I always followed his career down in Miami. But we know the offense is going to look different with Kyler Murray to take advantage of his skill set, more out of the shotgun, use his weapons, his legs. But you've also got this rookie now who it sounds like is very intelligent, smart, ahead of the curve, is picking up all the responsibilities that he needs to have as a fullback and the different tasks he's being asked to take on in that role. How big of an impact could a third-day rookie pick potentially make on this dynamic offense?
I think the fact that they've tried to get Chaz Chambliss up to speed playing fullback, who I think he had one snap doing this. My colleague Andrew Kramer just wrote about this, and Chaz Chambliss played one snap in college, like blocking on the game-winning touchdown for Georgia against Texas in the SEC title game. The fact that they are saying we need somebody available in the event that Max Bredesen goes down tells you a lot about what they're thinking on this position. And to C.J. Ham, we talked with C.J. Ham a little bit earlier this offseason, and he said I take it as a little bit of a compliment that I've shown that this role is important enough to keep in this offense over the long term. And it's partially, he'd established some of that, but a lot of this is because of Frank Smith, because yes, Alec Ingold has been a big part of what they do. And we've seen a lot of runs where Max Bredesen is lead blocking for one of those running backs. I expect that will be a big part of what they try to do this fall. I mean, obviously all of this goes back to San Francisco, where Kyle Juszczyk has been a big part of their offense for a long time. But Kyle Juszczyk has a number of different roles, a little more of a variety of roles than I think we'll see from Max Bredesen. Certainly C.J. Ham had a lot of roles as well. So I think having that sledgehammer fullback is going to be part of what they do. And we've seen Bredesen play enough. We've seen enough 21 personnel type looks where you're maybe coming out of the pistol or you've got a quarterback under center where that fullback is back there. So I think he is going to be very much like what Alec Ingold has been for the Dolphins, and a lot of that connection that Frank Smith brought in is a big part of it because they wanted him here with the run game in mind. He's going to have a lot of roles on this offense, but the things that he did with Mike McDaniel in Miami with that run game were a very big part of what made him attractive to the Vikings. And you play that out and say, okay, what are the things that they used pretty frequently? A fullback is a big part of it. So I think very much that archetype at that position is what they have in mind for Max Bredesen.
Got it. Let's close with this. All that you're talking about with the potential of this offense, we know is predicated by the offensive line play. And by all accounts, when those five starters are healthy, they feel really good about the five starters. I know you reported a bit about Blake Brandel's issues, perhaps with some of his snaps in the shotgun. You can talk about that.
Yeah.
But depth, I think, is a real concern. It's not native to the Vikings. I think most teams are concerned about their offensive line depth. I'm concerned about Green Bay's line depth after the first three guys, to be honest. But how big a concern is it with what's beyond the five starters? Because we're all pretty sure that they're going to have to go deeper than five. Every team does. Where are we with the offensive line, and any players guys should watch Friday night who have a chance to step up and show that they're ready to step in if needed?
Yeah, I mean, I think the depth is, like you said, it's always a question for teams because expecting you're going to be more than 7 or 8 deep with solid players on your offense is just hard to do, especially at a point where offensive linemen don't get developed in college in a way that translates to the NFL terribly well. So signing Ryan Vandemark for them was important. I mean, we've seen him at both tackle spots. I think he's going to be the first guy off the bench if either of those tackles goes down. But the interior line is where I would have some of the specific questions about the depth. I mean, if Blake Brandel is not able to get the job done at center, you've seen Michael Jorgens have some issues with snaps as well. A guy like Gavin Gerhardt could be in the mix there. I mean, they like Joe Huber. I think there are places that they feel okay about some of the depth, but Caleb Tiernan dealing with an ankle injury means that you're probably trying to get him back for week 1. I think all of that stuff is a valid thing that they're thinking about and probably something that keeps them up at night. A lot of things do, but yes, You have a decorated offensive line with a new center, and you have a couple of guys like Christian Darrisaw that are back from injuries. He's had a great training camp. He feels good, but if you lose guys like that, it's always hard to make it work. And I think especially having that center position be solidified is really important because that's what they thought they were going to get with Ryan Kelly when they brought him in last year. Obviously, the concussions necessitated his retirement, and so you're trying to get all of that back together and do it with a new quarterback. So that quarterback center connection when you're setting protections, you're just getting the ball snapped, especially if you're not under center quite as much. All of those things are factors in how this thing goes. I think this can be a very good line. I think it's been a forceful group throughout from what we've seen in training camp, but that group has to show up in a pretty big way. I think that's a important part of it, and it has been for a long time. We go back to that playoff game in 24 with Sam Darnold when they gave up all those sacks. They tried to fix it then with Will Fries, Ryan Kelly, and the first-round pick, Donovan Jackson. They're still kind of working through that, and I think having that group stay healthy and be effective is a lot of it. And then when you run into the inevitable injuries, you need some of these depth pieces to show that they can help carry things and make it so that the ship keeps moving forward, as it were.
Great stuff, Ben. Safe travels to Denver. We'll look forward to reading your stuff throughout this weekend as the roster takes shape and the first 53 gets announced on Sunday. Appreciate it, my man.
No problem. Thanks, Dave. We'll talk to you soon.
You got it. Ben Goessling. Read his stuff at Star Tribune and StarTribune.com. I'll take a break here. Come back. Top 5 is next on The Fan.
You're listening to Dave Sinekin on The Fan.
From the 1-800-ASK-GARY Traffic Center. This report is sponsored by Farm Bureau.